There were a lot of insane moments at Trump's inauguration, from Elon Musk's Nazi salutes to Melania Trump, looking like she's straight out of Spy vs. Spy, about to take one for the team. But maybe the most pressing thing that Trump said was this.
Today I will sign a series of historic executive orders. With these actions, we will begin the complete restoration of America and the revolution of common sense. It's all about common sense. First, I will declare a national emergency at our southern border. All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came. We will reinstate my Remain in Mexico policy. I will end the practice of catch and release. And I will send troops to the southern border to repel the disastrous invasion of our country. We'll also be designating the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. And by invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, I will direct our government to use the full and immense power of federal and state law enforcement to eliminate the presence of all foreign gangs and criminal networks, bringing devastating crime to U.S. soil, including our cities and inner cities. As Commander-in-Chief, I have no higher responsibility than to defend our country from threats and invasions, and that is exactly what I am going to do. We will do it at a level that nobody's ever seen before.
Did that make your blood boil as much as it did mine? Sorry to subject you to so much stupid all at once, but there's a lot of claims that Donald Trump just made, and I feel like it's really important to see the playbook here. Now, we all know Donald Trump is a yapper. He likes to say a lot of things and doesn't actually do a lot of work. In this case, he says he's going to declare national emergency at the southern border, declare that migrant gangs and the cartel are terrorists, and use the same law that was used to create internment camps to just start locking people up. We're going to take a look at what Trump said claim by claim. If you're enjoying the coverage, make sure to like the video and double check that you're subscribed. So here's a short list of what Trump said he's going to do during his speech. He said he's going to immediately halt illegal migration. Like we've covered in previous videos, what they say is illegal is often just the beginning processes of the legal migration system. They come after asylum seekers, for example, which is a legal process and requires somebody to step foot in the United States in order to claim asylum. Declare an end to birthright citizenship. This is a big one because this is the 14th Amendment. I thought these guys loved the Constitution, but somehow Trump thinks 200 years of precedent is somehow being misinterpreted. This is the one that's sure to be a constitutional crisis if he actually goes through with it. He said he was going to send the US military to the border. This is sort of tied to his declaration that migrant crossings at the US border is a national emergency and somehow constitutes an invasion. This mirrors some of the language used by Texas Governor Greg Abbott in his defense of putting over 100 miles of razor wire in the Rio Grande, which killed several people. He says, I have already declared an invasion under Article 1, Clause 3 to invoke Texas's constitutional authority to defend and protect itself. These claims are being battled in court, but if Trump declares a national emergency and an invasion, then you better bet there's going to be a lot more than 100 miles of of razor wire in the Rio Grande. On his point about declaring a national emergency, law professor at George Mason wrote, "There is no sudden crisis at the border right now. In fact, legal entries are down to their lowest levels since August 2020, when the rate was unusually low due to the COVID pandemic. What remains is an ongoing policy issue, on which there is long-standing disagreement. In my view, the best way to address it is to make legal immigration easier, but those who disagree cannot get around using the ordinary legislative processes by invoking an emergency." On the point about using the Alien Enemy Sedition Act, the Alien Act cannot be used in our current situation because we are not in a declared war with any foreign nation. Illegal migration and cross-border drug smuggling do not qualify as an invasion, and certainly not as an invasion by a hostile nation or government. That would also apply to his idea to designate drug cartels as global terrorists, seeing as that would require them to have some sort of political aim, whereas drug cartels, well, they sell drugs, it's literally in the name. But that doesn't mean Trump isn't going to try his old scare tactics. He did a lot of ICE raids during his first administration, and it looks like human thumb Tom Homan is already at work in Chicago.
Good afternoon. What we have learned so far from ICE and from immigration officials is that we shall wait and see. Right now, we've heard from local community members, people who own businesses here, from undocumented immigrants and advocates, that there is a great sense of fear. We've heard from businesses who say, look, some of our workers are not showing up to work tomorrow because they are in fear of these mass deportations. We know that President Trump has said that he will begin the largest mass deportation in American history. But Tom Homan, the border czar, who will become the border czar, over the weekend and for weeks has been saying, look, we are not going to do these mass raids that are being reported, that they're going after people who are considered a national security or a public threat, and that the goal is to make sure that the people who they are detaining and the people who are going to be deported first are people who are under investigation by ICE. That said, that is not what the president has said throughout his campaign. So there's a great deal of fear and anxiety in these communities. What we have also learned today is that the first order of business is something we expected because of the way that the president described it throughout this campaign, was the end of the CBP One app. That is the app that people who seek asylum while in Mexico were able to use in order to have an appointment that is confirmed by the U.S. government and make their beginning of their claim for asylum at 8 different points of entry along the U.S.-Mexico border. Well, now that has ended, meaning that the tens of thousands of people who had appointments and are waiting on the Mexico side now no longer have that opportunity to make their case for asylum while being in the United States. And with that, they have a potential eligibility to work in the meantime. What I thought was interesting, having covered for years the Trump administration's immigration policies, is that without the CBP One app, because you might remember the Biden administration had already shut down the possibility for people to make their case for asylum if they came into the U.S. between ports of entry, meaning without that appointment, is that now it's essentially like going back to the Remain in Mexico policy, where there is no possibility for people to right now show up at the border with an appointment in between ports of entry and try to make their claim for asylum legally.
Now, this app wasn't exactly a miracle worker. It had a lot of problems, but it was a legal process. It did allow people to still seek asylum without having to step foot within the United States. Now they're going a step further, making it harder for people to immigrate into the United States legally. Just like the Lake and Riley Act will make it easier for states like Texas to arrest legal migrants who are accused of a crime. So we're pretty close to being completely mask off when it comes to their real goal, the removal of anybody who doesn't come from certain places, who don't look like certain people. I know I say this every single time we talk about immigration, but America is a nation of immigrants. Texas is a Mexican word, derived from Tejas, meaning friends. The people are descendants of Czech and German migrants. There's a large population of Black and Mexican Americans, descendants of slaves and descendants of Native Americans. It is a hugely mixed cultural bag, and it always has been. The idea that America first means that Americans look like a certain thing and act a certain way, and anybody who wants to come and be American can no longer do that, is the beginning of the end of the American experiment. The whole idea of this country is that anybody can come here, anybody can make the dream work. And these slimy losers are trying to claim that they are the only ones who are American, and the rest of us have to ask them for permission to be here. There is only one kind of a Native American, and if you want to put them first, I'm all for it. But if one thing's absolutely certain is that Trump does not give a flying about America. The only thing he puts first is himself. I'm Tony Hinderman with Really American, and I'll catch you next time.